Get ready to shine and impress the examiner with these expert IELTS speaking tips. Let's get right into this video. So before I discuss these expert tips with you, I need you to understand the importance of knowing what to expect from the IELTS speaking section. So the IELTS speaking section assesses your ability and how well you are able to speak natural spoken English. Let me say that again. It assesses your ability to speak natural spoken English. What does natural spoken English mean? So natural spoken English means how native English speakers talk on a daily basis. So in the IELTS speaking section, this is what you will be assessed on. You don't need to use such high vocabulary words, but you need to be able to speak in a very casual, informal manner, just the way English speakers speak on a daily basis. So in this video, I'm going to provide you with expert advice on how you could speak natural spoken English, so make sure you continue watching. So there are 3 different parts in the IELTS speaking section. In part 1, the examiner is just trying to get to know you, what exactly your living arrangements are, such as if you're living in a house or an apartment, how many bedrooms your house has maybe, what's your family size, how many children you have, if you're married, single. He may even ask you a question like why you're taking the IELTS exam. You need to be prepared to answer these questions in full sentences, and you need to be able to use related vocabulary that is given within the context. He may even ask you what your favorite sport is in IELTS speaking part 1. So just make sure you speak in full sentences and you don't give answers that are more than 3 to 4 sentences. The maximum should be 4 sentences for each question that's asked in IELTS speaking part 1. So remember that. After IELTS speaking part 1, the examiner will proceed to IELTS speaking part 2. In IELTS speaking part 2, the examiner will give you a list of questions. These are called cue card questions, and he will give you 1 minute to prepare for your answer. So within that 1 minute, you need to make sure that you quickly jot down notes or brainstorm ideas of how exactly you are going to talk about this for a full 2 minutes. So while you are preparing your answer, remember to also prepare how you are going to introduce your topic to the examiner and how you are going to conclude your topic. So you're not just going to tell him, okay, I'm done. You need to have a clear transition between that last question you are talking about and your conclusion. Then after IELTS speaking part 2, you will be moved on to part 3. In part 3, the examiner will ask you a different variety of questions. This could relate to the same questions he asked you in part 2, but sometimes it may not relate to questions that he asked you in part 2. So in the IELTS speaking part 3 section, you need to be able to answer the questions once again in full sentences. Remember that part 3 is kind of like an informal discussion. Don't use any slang and speak in full sentences. Don't just answer the question directly. Speak once again for 3 sentences, I'd say maximum, for each given question in IELTS speaking part 3. And guys, if you like this video so far, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's get right back into this video. So have a look at some IELTS speaking preparation tips on things you need to consider before exam day. The first thing you need to do is familiarize yourself with the different question types and how exactly the examiner will go from part 1 to part 2 to part 3. So remember that you need to familiarize yourself with the question types you may be asked in each given question, and if you need some help or you are wondering what type of questions you will be asked in part 1, 2, and 3, make sure you check out this playlist up above. I'll also put it down in the description box so you have it for the end of this video and you are able to go through the video to see some sample questions and answers. And one thing I want to mention is please do not try to memorize the answers for these sample questions and answers. Instead, just get an idea of how exactly or what format is used when answering a question to get a high band. And the second tip I have for you is that you should find ways to practice speaking English every single day. Whether you have a friend you could practice with, or maybe joining an online community, maybe a local Facebook community group where you are able to practice speaking English with somebody. This will help you improve your English drastically, meaning you will see very quick results. If you are able to practice at least for 20 minutes a day, you will see a big improvement in your English speaking skills. And if you want to know how exactly you should practice your English speaking skills for 20 minutes a day, check out the video in the description box down below, because I have a video in my description box of how you can improve your English by practicing for 20 minutes daily. And the third tip is, while you are practicing your English every day with a native English speaker, you need to make sure you are also developing your pronunciation, your vocabulary, and your fluency. Remember, one big part that you will be marked on in the IELTS speaking section is how correctly you are pronouncing words and how fluent you are pronouncing a word. The biggest tip I recommend for practicing your pronunciation skills is literally, if you don't know how to pronounce a word, go to dictionary.com, enter in the word, and then you will see a little speaker button where you are able to listen how exactly this word is pronounced.
Monsoon.
Then try to take the word and say it out loud, pronounce it out loud in a sentence. And another great way of practicing pronunciation is, once you know how to pronounce that word, take it and say it out loud in a sentence to yourself, or maybe with a friend. That vocabulary word you just learned will be retained in your long-term memory, so you are able to use it on exam day. And guys, the fourth tip I have for you is to check out my videos on different IELTS speaking questions and answers I have answered. As I mentioned earlier, take a look at these to get a general idea of what type of answer you need to give to score a high band on your IELTS speaking exam. And while I'm on this topic on preparation tips, I want to give you some advice on how exactly you can stay calm on exam day, so that way you are not feeling nervous. It's so important that you feel confident in what you are saying on exam day, because believe me, if you feel a bit nervous or overwhelmed before the exam starts, the speaking section, you won't be able to respond to the examiner's answer. So guys, you need to stay calm. Remember that it's just an informal discussion between you and the examiner. You need to talk in natural spoken English. Don't try to use big vocabulary words you don't know how to pronounce. If you forget how to pronounce it, try to use another synonym word to cover it up, so that way you are able to get a high band, guys. This is so important in the IELTS speaking exam. Please do not use words you are not familiar with, because maybe you know how to pronounce it, but you're using the word in the wrong context. Like, it's so off topic that it's going to end up getting you a low band. So don't try to use words you're not familiar with, is what I'm trying to say. And guys, if you want to know how you could stay motivated when you are preparing for your IELTS exam, make sure you check out this video up above, and I'll see you over there.